Hello there, my tubing friends. I hope that you had a fantastic weekend and a fantastic President's Day. And today I come to you because there's some stark, raving, lunatic real estate news in which you are probably going to see YouTube light up. And everybody's going to have their hair on fire, and the world's going to come to an end. And oh my God, what's this going to mean? And that's it, I quit. And all this ridiculousness. And that is that the Department of Justice has just said that the commission model that real estate brokers have, where the sellers share uh, the commission with the buyer's agent, the listing agent, buyer's agent, the Department of Justice said that's not good enough. We're going to have to redo this entire thing from the top to the bottom, and there's no ifs, ands, buts about it. The Department of Justice took a bold move in challenging real estate practices by saying that criticizing the proposed settlement involving MLS PIN, which is a MLS up north, because we don't do things like that down here. Actually, we do. It's a nationwide thing. And raising conditions about the fairness of the buyer broker commissions. And basically, what we're talking about is the seller having to pay the buyer broker commissions, the sellers having a problem paying for buyer broker commissions because what they're doing is they're paying people who are negotiating against them. And to the Department of Justice, that was a violation of Sherman antitrust. The National Association of Realtors was found guilty of this, and their penance was $1.75 billion, which means that in the later times, you're going to see that in higher everything as far as buying and selling a home, because what happens is anything that happens in that particular market gets down to the real estate brokers, and the real estate brokers has to charge higher commissions in order to keep up the special assessments, their licensing, their memberships, and everything else having to do with real estate because of that. So that means that you can expect either higher as far as that's concerned, commissions. Now with me, 2%. I don't pay buyer commissions. Never have agreed to them. Never liked them. I've had my butt chewed out by real estate brokerages because I refuse to pay buyer commissions, because it's the responsibility of the buyer's agent and the buyer to negotiate those commissions amongst themselves. It's not, again, my sellers do not employ a buyer's agent. And we have to get over this idea of buyer agency is a demand with the sellers, and the sellers have to pay, or we're not going to show their house, because that's steering and that's illegal. And if anybody does such, I report them, because it's illegal. But anyway, let's continue with this thing. The DOJ settlement statement of interest lambasted the proposed MLS PIN settlement, suggesting that it would prevent sellers from offering commissions incentives to buyer brokers altogether. By advocating their injunction prohibiting seller paid commissions to buyer agents, the DOJ aims to empower buyers to negotiate directly with their brokers, thereby fostering greater competition and innovation in the market. Seller pays listing, buyer pays buying. It's not that hard. While the NAR is not directly involved in the MLS, however, there is a thing about this. MLSs will tell you that you have to be a member of your local board in order to be able to list on their MLS. Some of them will even say that you have to be members of the National Association of Realtors to list on those MLSs. So, and the NAR wrote the handbook for the MLSs to demand that everybody become a member so they can just go ahead and it blossoms and it blossoms and it blossoms. So you have this collusionary Sherman Antitrust Act thing going on, and their code of ethics are saying that it's perfectly okay if you wanted to steer away from somebody from a house because they're not offering an appropriate commission structure, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then they get nailed, and then it's like, oh, play the victim. So the DOJ's intervention serves as a stark warning for the association amidst ongoing legal battles over commission practices. And this is not just going to filter down from the NAR to your real estate broker. It's going to go from your NAR to your local associations, to your MLSs, to your local brokerages, because I've been a member of some brokerages that says this is what our minimum is. And when it comes to our minimum, then you know what? Our minimum is going to be 6%, whether you like it or not. And you can tell your sellers that. And I fired the brokerages because I disagree with that. If you set a minimum and you're telling me that I can't, I'm free to negotiate, but then you're telling me I can't negotiate because that's what the MLS wants, then you have just bought into the collusion thing. I'm sorry, but you are every time somebody opens their mouth, they define the collusion. I've seen 4 people lambast the attorney, and the attorney's just sitting there taking notes for his next case because the real estate broker is running his damn mouth. Something else. You wouldn't believe it. This is something that you folks generally don't commonly see. In the meantime, us auctioneers, we're sitting here watching this fall apart, and we're laughing because we don't discuss commissions. We will say, okay, well, do you charge commissions for, say, shipping? Yes or no. Do you charge commissions for this? Yes or no. Do you do flat fees or do you do commissions for this? Yes or no. You don't hear this average. You don't hear this common. You don't hear any of that amongst us. So if the real estate brokerages and the real estate firms and the real estate memberships and the real estate associations want to get this to blow over, they have to learn to shut up. The NAR CEO put a video out that says never in the history of the NAR have we ever set commissions. Well, back in 1950s, somewhere, they had a thing. You could go back and look in their archives. They had a set schedule up until about 83, 82, 83, because my mother was a real estate agent back then, where if you did not charge appropriately inside of this schedule that they gave to everybody, it went against their code of ethics. And to this day, they do unethical crap that is part of their code of ethics that is checkmark ethical. So with this DOJ decision, it means that the commission structures for every single deal has to be completely rewritten. I've said before, if you are contacting me as your listing agent, you're only paying me. You're not paying everybody as far as that's concerned. If you're contacting me for probate, you want it cleaned out, you want it cleaned out, cleaned up, repaired, or any of that other stuff, then you pay for those individual services, and then you pay me to list the property. You don't pay the buyer's agency. You don't pay somebody to negotiate against you. And then when they do negotiate against you in a traditional real estate sale, when it comes to the point of, well, you have to spend $50,000 to $100,000 more for the property in order to get it, that's violating Sherman Antitrust, because now you're padding it for both sides, the seller and the buyer side. Yeah, the seller's getting more, but so is the commissions. The commissions are going up higher because the buyer, who's supposed to have the heart of the buyer, the buyer's agent, who's supposed to have the buyer's agents or agency and trust, is negotiating not only against the buyer for higher commissions, but they're also negotiating against the seller for higher commissions. Anyway, the whole thing is a mess. That's why if I commonly say, if I have this tangerine and I want to sell this tangerine and I hire my kid to sell this tangerine, and then I have a buyer who wants the tangerine, let's say this guy wants to buy this tangerine, he gets a broker to buy the tangerine, and now we're having to pay two people in betwixt. There's a problem. Whereas you hire me to put this on a platform that goes all the way around the world, and then you only pay me for my services that I provide you. Doesn't something make more sense than... I mean, it never made sense. It never made ethical sense either. Anyway, I just thought I'd let you guys know that this DOJ thing has just came down, and you can be prepared to watch YouTube light up with all of these people screaming and hollering that it's not fair. And guess what? I've got my popcorn popping. I've got my beer brewing. Let the fun begin. I am Matt Price. I am your real estate broker and your auctioneer. Have a great day.